I've been driving 18-wheelers for 15 years now, and I thought I'd seen everything these lonely highways had to offer. That changed last November on a stretch of Route 80 through Nebraska. It was around 2 in the morning when my eyes started getting heavy. That dangerous kind of tired where the road starts hypnotizing you. I knew I had to pull over before I became another statistic. The GPS showed a rest stop about 5 miles ahead. One of those small, forgotten places that barely shows up on maps anymore. When I pulled in, the parking lot was empty except for one other truck at the far end, lights off, looking abandoned. The sodium lights overhead were flickering, casting everything in this sick yellow-orange glow that made my skin look jaundiced. I should have kept driving. God, I should have just kept driving. But I was so tired, and the law says you need to rest. So I backed into a spot near the restrooms, killed the engine, and climbed into the sleeper berth. The silence that followed was absolute. No wind, no crickets, nothing. Just that oppressive quiet that makes your ears ring. I was just starting to drift off when I heard it. Knock, knock, knock. 3 precise taps on the side of my trailer. I sat up, heart hammering, listening, probably just the metal contracting in the cold, I told myself. Then it came again. Knock, knock, knock. Same rhythm, same intensity, but this time closer to the cab. I grabbed my flashlight and looked out the window. Nothing. The parking lot was still empty, still bathed in that sickly light. The other truck at the far end hadn't moved. I tried to convince myself it was an animal, maybe a raccoon or something, but the knocking was too deliberate, too purposeful. I lay back down, but sleep was impossible now. That's when the knocking started moving. It went from the passenger side to the back of the cab, then to the driver's side, like someone was walking around the truck. Knock, knock, knock. Always 3 times. Always the same spots. I couldn't see anyone through the mirrors, couldn't hear footsteps, just that methodical knocking circling my truck like a shark. My mouth went dry. I grabbed my phone to call the police, but there was no signal. Of course there wasn't. The knocking stopped. For maybe 30 seconds, there was nothing, and I almost convinced myself it was over. Then I heard it right above my head. Knock, knock, knock. Something was on top of my cab. I could hear it moving up there, scraping sounds, like fingernails on metal. I'm not a small guy, played football in high school, but I was terrified. Every instinct screamed at me to start the engine and get the hell out, but I was paralyzed, pressed flat in my bunk, barely breathing. Then it spoke. I heard a voice, muffled, but clear enough, coming from directly above me. It said my name, my full name, first and last, the way it appears on my license. Michael James Patterson. It said, slow and drawn out. I've been waiting for you. The voice was wrong, like someone talking through a mouthful of gravel, wet and gurgling. I didn't know how it knew my name. I didn't care. I lunged for the driver's seat, turned the key with shaking hands, and the engine roared to life. The thing on my roof let out this sound, this awful shriek that wasn't quite human, and I felt it slide off as I threw the truck into gear. I didn't look back. I drove for 6 hours straight. Didn't stop until I was in Iowa with the sun fully up and the rest stop far behind me. When I finally worked up the courage to check my roof at a truck wash, I found scratches in the paint, deep gouges that formed letters. They spelled out soon. I reported it to the police, but what could they do? They took my statement, looked at me like I was crazy or on something. I thought about quitting then, finding a new line of work, but trucking is all I know. I still drive that route sometimes. I never stop at that rest stop anymore, even in daylight. And late at night, when I'm alone on the highway, I sometimes hear it again. Knock, knock, knock. 3 times. Always 3 times, getting close. Name's Sarah Chen, and I'm one of the few women in long-haul trucking. I've dealt with my share of harassment, dangerous situations, and sketchy truck stops, but nothing prepared me for what happened in West Texas last spring. I'd been driving for 11 hours straight, delivering electronics from California to Houston, and I desperately needed to use a restroom. Not just wanted, needed. The kind of need that makes you clench your jaw and pray you spot facilities soon. The rest stop appeared like a mirage, one of those small state-run places with just the basics, a parking area, some picnic tables, and a concrete building with restrooms. It was about 4 in the afternoon, sun beating down hard, heat shimmering off the asphalt. There were no other vehicles, which should have concerned me, but all I could think about was relief. I parked, grabbed my keys and phone, and headed to the women's restroom. The building was old, probably built in the 70s, with that institutional beige paint and narrow windows set high in the walls. The women's room had 3 stalls and one of those heavy doors that closes automatically. When I walked in, the middle stall door was closed. I didn't think much of it, went into the first stall, did my business, washed my hands. That's when I noticed something odd. I hadn't heard any sounds from the occupied stall. No toilet flushing, no movement, nothing, and I'd been in there for several minutes. I glanced under the stall door and saw feet. Women's shoes, black flats, just standing there completely still. "You okay in there?" I asked. No response. The feet didn't move. I felt a cold prickle run down my spine despite the Texas heat. Maybe she was on her phone, I thought, or not feeling well. I dried my hands and was about to leave when I heard it. A low, wet breathing sound coming from that middle stall. Not normal breathing, but labored, like someone drowning, each inhale a struggle. "Hey, do you need help?" I said louder. The breathing stopped. The feet shifted slightly, turning to face the stall door from the inside. Then I heard the lock slowly slide open, click. The door didn't open, but I heard that lock clearly disengage. My heart was pounding now. Something was very wrong. The feet under the door weren't moving right. They were just pointed at me, completely still, and that breathing had started again, faster now, excited. I backed toward the exit, but the heavy door had closed, and when I grabbed the handle, it wouldn't turn. I yanked hard, but it was stuck, jammed somehow. I was trapped in this bathroom with whatever was in that stall. The middle stall door creaked open slowly. I pressed myself against the exit door, fumbling for my phone, but my hands were shaking so badly I dropped it. It clattered across the tile floor, sliding under the sinks. The stall door was halfway open now, and I could see inside. The woman was facing the corner, her long dark hair hanging down, her head tilted at an unnatural angle. She was wearing a floral dress that looked decades old, and her skin where I could see it on her arms and legs was gray, mottled, wrong. The breathing was coming from her, but she wasn't moving, not turning around, just standing there facing the corner. Then her head started to rotate, not her body, just her head, turning backwards like an owl, and I saw her face. I can't describe it properly, don't want to really, but it wasn't human anymore. The eyes were white, filmed over, and the mouth was open to wide, impossibly wide, and that breathing was coming from deep in her throat. She took a step toward me, then another, moving in this jerky, broken way. I screamed and threw my full weight against the exit door. Something gave, metal screeching, and I burst out into the blinding sunlight. I ran to my truck, didn't look back, didn't grab my phone, just ran. Started the engine and peeled out of there so fast I left rubber on the pavement. I drove straight to the next town, went to the police station, told them everything. They sent a unit to check it out. They found my phone on the bathroom floor, but they said all 3 stalls were empty, no sign of anyone, and the door worked fine. They gave me back my phone and a look that said I'd imagined the whole thing, but I know what I saw. And 2 weeks later, I heard on the news about another woman, a truck driver, who disappeared from that same rest stop. They found her truck, but she was gone. I think about her sometimes, wonder if she's still in that bathroom, facing the corner in the middle stall, waiting for the next person to come in. I take the long way around West Texas now. I'd rather drive 3 extra hours than risk stopping at that place again. Call me red because of my hair, and I've been hauling freight across this country for 23 years. I've seen all kinds of weird stuff on the road, From UFOs to ghost lights to things I still can't explain. But nothing shook me like what happened at the rest stop outside of Spokane, Washington. It was late October. One of those cold, damp Pacific Northwest nights where the fog rolls in thick as cotton and you can barely see 20 feet ahead. My back was killing me from sitting so long, and I needed to stretch my legs. Maybe splash some cold water on my face to stay alert for the last leg of my journey. The rest stop was nearly deserted when I pulled in around midnight. Just a couple of cars in the lot and one other semi with its curtains drawn. The place had that eerie quietness that comes with fog. Like sound gets muffled and distance becomes meaningless. I headed into the men's room, a typical setup with urinals along one wall, sinks along the other, and a long mirror running above them. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, one of them flickering in that irritating way that drills into your skull. I was alone in there, or so I thought. I went to the sink, turned on the faucet, and splashed cold water on my face. When I looked up into the mirror, wiping water from my eyes, I saw him standing behind me. A man in trucker gear, jeans and a flannel shirt, ball cap pulled low. My heart jumped and I spun around, but there was nobody there. The bathroom was empty. I looked back at the mirror, and he was still there, standing about 6 feet behind me, perfectly still, watching me with eyes I couldn't quite make out under the brim of his cap. I could see every detail of him in the reflection, could see his chest moving as he breathed. But when I looked over my shoulder, there was just empty space. My rational mind tried to process this. Mirror tricks, bad lighting, exhaustion playing games with my perception, but I wasn't imagining this. I turned back to the mirror, and now he was closer, maybe 4 feet behind me. He hadn't walked, hadn't moved that I'd seen, but he'd closed the distance. His face was becoming clearer now, and what I saw made my blood run cold. His skin was pale, almost translucent, and his eyes were completely black, no whites, just endless dark pits. His mouth was moving, like he was talking, but I couldn't hear any sound. I wanted to run, but I was frozen, staring at this impossible reflection of a man who wasn't really there. Then he smiled. It was the most horrible smile I've ever seen, full of too many teeth, sharp and wrong. He raised one hand slowly and pointed at me, pointing at my reflection in the mirror, and his lips formed words I could finally understand even without sound. "Turn around," he mouthed. "Turn around and see me." Every instinct I had screamed not to, but there was something compelling about it, something that made me want to obey despite my terror. My body started to rotate against my will, my feet shuffling on the tile floor, my head beginning to turn toward where he should be standing. I caught myself just in time, snapped my eyes shut, and bolted. I kept my eyes closed and ran by memory, hands outstretched, until I crashed through the bathroom door and out into the parking lot. The cold air hit me like a slap, and I opened my eyes, gasping. I ran to my truck, climbed in, locked the doors, and sat there shaking for a full 10 minutes before I could even start the engine. I wanted to leave immediately, but something made me look toward the bathroom building. In one of those high, narrow windows, I could see him. He was standing inside, pressing his face against the glass, those black eyes fixed on me, that terrible smile still in place. He raised his hand and waved slowly, deliberately, like we were old friends parting ways. I got out of there fast, drove through the night without stopping again until I reached Seattle. I tried to forget about it, chalk it up to exhaustion or stress, but it didn't end there. Over the next few weeks, I started seeing him in other mirrors. Quick glimpses at truck stops, gas stations, even in the mirror of my own truck. Always in the reflection, never in reality. Always watching me with those bottomless black eyes. I talked to a priest about it, burned sage in my truck like an old driver suggested, even saw a therapist who prescribed me anxiety medication. Nothing helped. He's still there, still following me from mirror to mirror. Last week, I picked up a hitchhiker outside of Boise. Young kid who looked like he needed a break. We were making small talk, and I happened to glance at my rearview mirror. The man in the trucker cap was sitting between us in the reflection, grinning that awful grin. The hitchhiker was talking, oblivious, but in the mirror, the man's hands were around the kid's throat, squeezing, and the kid's reflection was turning purple, eyes bulging, even though in reality, he was fine, still chatting about where he was headed. I pulled over immediately, told the kid to get out, made up some excuse about an emergency. He looked confused but left, and in the mirror, the man watched him go, then slowly turned his head toward me. His smile widened. I think he's getting stronger, more present. I am terrified that one day I look in a mirror and see him step out of the reflection into the real world. I still drive, still haul loads across the country, but I avoid mirrors now whenever I can. I keep my eyes down in public restrooms, cover the mirrors in my sleeper cab with towels, but I can feel him there, always there, waiting in every reflective surface. Waiting for the moment I slip up and look too long. Waiting to finally cross over and show me what he really is. And God help me, I think that moment is coming soon.